All right, welcome to another edition of Rsg One Mic. I'm in the building, loving it. Please go to realsportsguys.com for everything RSG. This has been good. We've been having some great shows coming up, and I think we got another hot one today. We're going to call this podcast, this episode, The End Game, and y'all understand a little bit more about this when we get to the cipher as well. But it's important that I close something out, even before I do the introductions. You know, we'll bring the crew in, but we have to honor it. As y'all know, we've been doing this RSG Tourney Challenge for a few years. It's just been a fun way, and we've had some interesting people who participate in this Tourney Challenge. And for those of you who haven't participated in, what's unique about this Tourney Challenge is you're trying to compete with the guys in the RSG fam for those top 3 spots. We have prizes in those top 3 spots, and if we get those prizes, we hold on to them. The rest of y'all don't get them. We keep them in-house. And this year, we kept it in-house. Y'all couldn't hang with it because my boy Hammer brought it home this year. You know, he was the one, he kind of kept it strong. And what's unique about this year is that we're going to have a championship belt. So we had to wait for the winner, and then we got to try to engrave Hammer's name in there. He gets to hold on to that thing like the Stanley Trophy. You know, like he gets to walk around. You might see Hammer with that belt in Brewer Park. You might see him in Camp Randall. You might know a Hammer. You might see him on a beach somewhere with that, taking a picture of it. He can take it wherever. He can take it to the family reunion. We just say you got to bring it back so we can hold it next year during the tourney. And then there's some other things going around. And then the game changer out of anywhere came up and took the 2nd place spot as well. And then our guy, he's a friend of the program in a lot of different ways. You know, Hank knows it. My man Mark Mallory, he placed again, but he placed 3rd. So we'll have a gift card for him. But it's all in fun. We have had people who've been in this every year. And I think adding this kind of championship belt, it feels very RSG. It feels like this. So Hammer, we want to congratulate you, brother, for first put it down for the crew and everything else. I know I give you a hard time all the time, but I was so happy to see you at the top because I was like, we need to have somebody hold this damn thing down because it fell off as well. So I'm going to give you, before we get into the particulars, I'm going to give you your stage. How do you feel, man? How did it feel to own it this year?
It felt great because I proved everyone wrong about Illinois. Illinois is a fraud, so that's why I won it. I picked all y'all who got in that Illinois bandwagon. Y'all lost. So, and I didn't even win. I didn't get the winner. I won because y'all put all your chips in Illinois, and they got all taken away. So, you know, I'm from Illinois. Like I said, the program ain't gonna never be the same since Lou left. Never be the same. And Brad Underwood is a Brooks man's, Bryce Drew. He ain't that good of a coach. With that talent, they should have won it. When I saw Brad Underwood, I was like, they ain't gonna win it. And I knew Loyola would take it. Porter Mosier, now the coach of Oklahoma, and now brother Valentine taking over. I like what Lowell's doing, but yeah, I'm very happy. Like I said, honored, especially with the RSG family. You got a lot of brilliant brothers and people, in the family, and so to win that's an honor. That's the best among best.
We're gonna work on the belt. And the good thing about it, you and I got vaccinated, so we can get over there. We get the belt, take the picture, stand next to each other, and celebrate. Congratulations, brother, on winning it.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I couldn't have won it if not been invited.
Yeah,
so that's the bottom line. Yeah, so.
It's all good. It's all good. So until next year, y'all get ready. Come back next year. We're gonna keep trying to add something to the tourney, but it's been fun and everything else. And congratulations again to Hammer and everybody who participated in it. Thank you for being loyal. We have people who've been there every year, and so we really love that. And then we got to bring in our man Old School. You know, he's not the Will Cartwright of the group, but we got to go to him first in the post a lot of time. You try to establish our offense. My man Hank, what's up, man? The OG.
I'm doing good, man. Congratulations, Hammer. You know, it's always a joy just to hear you just break it down the way you do. I was waiting for you to tell me that the reason why you won because everybody else's bracket was a sheer debacle. I was waiting on it. But outside of that, I was looking for it. But I said it for you. So but I feel good. I'm glad to be on with you guys. Happy belated Egg Day, Easter Day to everybody this past Sunday. Hope you had time to spend with your families and stuff. And so here we are back at it again and got some more stuff to talk about.
Wow. Thank you, man. And then we got the youngin', Darnell Kirkland Jr. He brings that youthful spirit, that young. He keeps us on our edge because, he ain't gonna let them facts ride by. He's grown with each show. We love it. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good as always. I wasn't even in this tournament, man. I didn't know y'all wasn't doing. I thought y'all was doing the ESPN one. I was like, man, where y'all at? But,
this is what happened with youngin'. See, we still working on him. There are points like that when I got, okay, now we got to make him back. We got to put him in intern. We can't put him in a full-time position. We got to do that. How did you not find it? See, that's a debate.
See, this is why no matter how old you get, you still got to run laps. That's the main reason why, right there. You got to round the pond.
Woo, we got work to do. But hey, we're gonna have a great show tonight. And we're feeling good about this. So we're gonna get into, what's on your back page. This is the thing we try to open up the open mic to get us going. It allows for each of our guys to, pull on the areas of sports they're paying attention to, kind of share the things that are top of mind in them in their sports world, to kind of share with it. So, Hammer, as the champ, we let you go first, man. What's on your back page?
Yeah, sadly, I'm sounding like a broken record, but it's Deshaun Watson again. It's just getting worse. Now you have women coming forward, but still there's very little evidence though. So I'm skeptical, but yeah, I'd say on the back page. And then I would say definitely Star Baseball, just baseball going. It's great to see baseball back. Cubbies won today. So, but yeah, I would say those two, but good thing and a bad thing, but Watson, he lost a major contract with Nike, so brother's in trouble. So, but he's got Rusty Harden, so Rusty, the best of the best. So, that's all. I wish the brother well, but it doesn't look good. So,
well, he lost the Beats one.
Yeah.
The Nike one got suspended.
Okay.
They haven't completely severed ties with him. But
That's good. I'm glad of that because I really think there's very little evidence that's been put forward. I'm a lawyer, and now they have me going parading out. And the lawyer's a next door neighbor of the McNairs, so it just looks nefarious. But we just keep him in our prayers because I don't want to see another black man go down if he's innocent. And they try to make this guy out to be Darren Sharper, and it just I wish him well. So.
Yeah, but and I also want to say at the same time, the women involved.
Yeah, the victim. Yeah, if they're victims, like I said again, the alleged victims.
We got to do.
They're victims, and
I'm a smoke. If there's smoke, there's fire a little bit. So
I believe innocent and proven guilty.
Yeah, we have to have the due process, and I think that's an important thing.
Yeah.
Even they had a great show on First Take, Her Take, and the ladies were. A lot of them were talking about the due process as well, about it. And so I do think there is a need for due process. I know people have talked about whether or not they should put him on with the commissioner's exempt list. But you can debate that either way. But he's definitely top of line just with the gravity of what's coming out here. And he's gonna have a day in court. Either it's gonna be in civil or possibly criminal, but there's gonna be a day in court. For that. All right, Darnell.
All right, I got Hammer got two, so I'm a breeze by the first one. I'm going to the second one, but the first one would be the women's tournament. My Arizona Wildcats. We got to the championship game, but man, that game, as fun as the tournament was, it came down to the two. Probably two of the worst possessions I've ever seen in basketball. Stanford comes down. They're only, I think at the time they're down. They're up 2. I think Stanford's up 2, but there's probably about an 8-second differential between the game clock and the shot clock. everybody spreads out, to try to dribble the clock down, and usually you attack with like 5 or 6 seconds left. But they somehow get a shot clock violation. They would know, like, well, Arizona been playing great pressure defense, which is why they didn't foul, because they didn't have to foul. Their defense already proved that they can turn them over and play solid defense. But on the other end, Arizona, I forgot my girl's name. Number 2,
Ari.
yeah, Ari. She's almost like, she reminds me a little bit of like Iverson in 01 almost. Like she's the only person that really can create, and the rest of the defense is great defenders. Like back in the 01 team, remember you had Dikembe Mutombo, you had who was a defensive player of the year. And they had that kind of thing going on, but she got triple teamed with like 2 seconds left. I was screaming at the TV, time out, call time out. It's like there's nothing good gonna happen in this situation. But they let it play out, and she has to throw like a turnaround 3 that, yeah, it was a horrible possession. But that's my first one. Second one, we didn't do the show on Tuesday, so I didn't really get to talk about what happened with Dan Orlovsky. But there's this thing going around, the implicit biases and the I don't really want to say it, but the covert racism that goes on with quarterbacks every year coming up the draft. We've seen it 2 years ago with Kyler Murray. I have and I'm like pure Darnell fashion. I have the receipts. 2019, we heard this from Charlie Casserly on Kyler Murray. These things always come out when it comes to black quarterbacks. Leadership, not good. Study habits, not good. The board work, below, not good. This is Kyler Murray. All right, 2018, we have Lamar Jackson. This is Tom Pelissero. This is his anonymous quote. All these quotes are going to be anonymous, things they got from sources. Oh, he's an awesome athlete, but he will not be able to play quarterback in this league. Mark my words. When he throws, he hopes. This is Lamar Jackson. The year before that, we have Deshaun Watson. We have from Charlie Campbell. Watson was off with his accuracy for much of 2016, displaying poor ball placement, especially when going downfield. He missed a lot of potential touchdowns as a result. Watson has a lot of room for improvement with his field vision, ball placement, and accuracy. Mel Kiper also said he has shown that he can make every throw that an NFL quarterback needs to make, but his lapses in decision-making hurt Clemson in the middle of the season. He said he doesn't play like a first-round pick. It seems like every year almost we have these sort of some of these things. There are valid criticisms, mind you, but it seems like the black quarterbacks are usually more scrutinized. They're more under that microscope. When you usually don't see, like, well, this year you can juxtapose it to a guy like Zach Wilson or a guy like Trevor Lawrence. Zach Wilson, if you want to juxtapose it to Justin Fields, him in his 2019 season, the season before COVID, he threw more interceptions in that season alone than Justin Fields has in his whole career. Mm-hmm. You have if you compare their touchdown to interception ratios, I also have that written down. You have Justin Fields at 7.4. You have Trevor Lawrence at 5.3, and you have Zach Wilson at 3.7. You have Mac Jones at a whopping 8. I mean, Mac Jones has put some great football out there. And if you want to, and obviously Trey Lance only throw one interception, so his touchdown interception ratio is 30, which is ridiculous. but that's just more pointing in that direction. If anybody wants to jump in on that, they can. But
I'm curious.
Yeah, you're right. Orlovsky was out of order, and you're right. A lot of it's definitely biased against Justin Fields. I mean, I have some questions with Justin Fields, but the solar on him has been unbelievable. Well, I shouldn't say unbelievable. It's racism. I mean, we're in America, so it's not unbelievable. And so they're going to tear down. They don't want us leading. They want us following, or they want us catching the ball. And so They don't want us in a leadership position, and so they'll try to tear us down every way. And yeah, so you're right, Darnell. These are attacks that were racist in nature. Call it is. You can call it implicit bias or all that, or unconscious bias. No, it's bias. That's what it is. Plain and simple. Let's call it out. It's bias.
Yeah, I have to state what Orlovsky said. I think I missed that, but Orlovsky, what he was saying is from his again anonymous sources. Yeah. He said he heard that Justin Fields is the last guy in. He's the first guy out. He said Justin Fields has questionable work ethic, and they questioned his will to be great, how much he wants to play football, which is absolutely a slap in the face. If you're in football culture, you know the worst thing you can say about a person is that they lack work ethic. And if you're talking about Justin Fields, he was one of the first people in the Big Ten leading the campaign for them to play. This was a guy that played with a hip pointer, with the rib injury in the Clemson game. He came back in the game and played just as good as he did before. He played in the national championship game with the same injury. You saw him. Well, he's been injured for a lot of his career. He got injured in the Penn State game last year. Then he came out for like a play and came back in. Michigan game, he got injured again, came back in. You can't question this guy's willingness to play football. I mean, you can question sometimes his decision making on the field, which is valid. I mean, that's something you could teach. It's something you can coach. You can coach him through the progressions and stuff like that. But if you're gonna put out those kinds of anonymous sources and then come back the next day or the day after that saying, well, I've gotten all these calls and texts saying pretty much saying the contrary, then you could have done that vetting before you came out with that story.
Yep. Hank, what are you gonna say?
I would be interested in, I already know what was said, what was said about Patrick Mahomes. That he had slow foot speed, his arm was erratic, and all these other kind of now he's Midwest Showtime. It's not just that. You can go back to Doug Williams. You can go back to Randall Cunningham. You can go back to Michael Vick. Okay, there was something wrong with any quarterback who wanted to play quarterback in the league of color. Warren Moon, thank you very much. Russell Wilson, y'all's boy from Wisconsin. Okay, and on and on and on. And Hammer, you said it eloquently. This is the United States of America, okay? And this is and there's going to be racial issues, especially when you start talking about, Black people want to do something in leadership, okay? And you got an old boys network in the NFL. It's always been that way, and this has always been the case. You go back to any quarterback, when you see how they scrutinize these young men, and they for the most part do very well, okay? But they make excuses for Tim Tebow. They make excuses for Matthew Stafford. They make excuses for Matt Ryan. They make excuses for Mitch Trubisky, okay? And on and on and on. And, not to turn this into a racial thing, but let's face the facts. Like Darnell said, you got receipts. And these guys, if you go just on the eye test, all of them will bring something to the table. You look at what Justin Fields have. You look at what all these other Black quarterbacks have. But you go and look at a Tim Tebow, or you go and look at a Johnny Manziel. And how many chances do they get when they've already got warning flags coming out of college? So, I agree with you. That's a great take.
Yeah, that's a good catch, and that's an issue that should be in front of mind. And obviously, when we get into our end game, this could be part of the discussion about what are those factors? What are the things that keep folks from making good decisions? Those opinions are reason why Trubisky, they went up to get Trubisky and jumped all over that other talent because they got skewed by the approach. Like how do you filter through that mess and control against your own biases? So that's something we'll definitely get into as we get into the cipher. Hank, what's on your back page?
Well, this is a great segue for mine. Because mine is that the Major League Baseball's All-Star game has moved out of the great state of Georgia and moved into the great state of Colorado. And why would they do such a thing? Well, because for those of you who are not in the know as far as on the political side, Georgia passed one of the most egregious voter suppression laws you ever want to see. So egregious to the fact that if you try to give people water or food while they're trying to vote, you could be arrested. Now, the Attorney General of Georgia said he's not going to do that. He said, because you got to have a cause of somebody being hurt, giving somebody water to vote is not going to hurt anybody. But that's just how ridiculous this has gotten, that the big lie that was given by the former guy in the White House has now got all these states so afraid that they're going to lose, that they're just going to change the playing field to the point where I'm just going to make sure you can't vote. If you've got any melanin in your skin at all, you cannot. I'm going to make it hard for you to vote. I'm going to make it harder for you to vote than it is for a preacher to walk into the bar on Sunday night, Saturday morning, whatever. But that's what they've done. And you've got other states that's trying to follow this lead. You've got Texas, you've got Iowa, you even got some legislation here in Michigan that they're trying to have voter suppression laws, all because the 2020 was one of the most safest elections ever, the presidential elections ever, one of the most secure ever. But because Cheeto Man lost, now what they want to do is change all these. The Republicans want to change all these votes. Well, Major League Baseball said we're not going for it. You guys have changed this law. It's Jim Crowism all over again. And I don't want to take up too much show time. Go look up Jim Crow. Okay, this is where the civil rights movement started and everything. But it's voter suppression. And Major League Baseball took an amazing stand because they're also a good boy network. But for them to take that stand and move the All-Star game out of Atlanta and into Denver because of that, I applaud them for that.
All right. Yeah, that was and create somebody. It's probably linked to what's on my back page, where Lee Elder was the honorary first tee, first African American to play in the Masters in 1975. After there were a series of rules that kept Black folks from being able to play, but in '74 when it was changed to, if you won a tournament, you would be eligible, and he was eligible to play. But it took all these years for him to be recognized in a way. But to see him, do the off to the first tee today in Georgia. So it again is this. Again, Georgia continues to be the theme. Down there, I think was amazing. The other thing that's on my back page I just heard today was Draymond Green criticism of what WNBA players need to do around asking for more money and the pushback he got, because he was clearly not informed about what these women have been doing. And a lot of us are allies and supporters of what's happening in the WNBA, but sometimes as brothers we miss the point. And Draymond got this platform, and Draymond, like they said, it's bad when you're wrong, but it's even worse when you loud and wrong. And we all, like, what I'm saying? We all been in those arguments where the cat you knew everybody was wrong, but you just gonna get louder because you think if you get loud, that it's gonna drown out the fact that what you're saying is not right. And it just felt so bad because he's one of my Michigan brothers, Saginaw, everywhere area, one of them brothers that I just, I like Draymond, but he was wrong. And them sisters, and they lovingly, tapped him on his head and let him know he was wrong. The sisters was loving on him because they knew he had missed the point on what they've been doing. In fact, they had negotiated, increasing salaries already. Some other things they've invested in WNBA Players Association been doing some incredible work with it. But I know Draymond is like many of us is an ally, but sometimes, brother, if you're confused, like the bad thing about him is he was just on Shanae and them shows, so all he had to do was go text them. Like he had connections. Like, let me think about this. Hold on, let me text and get the right information. It ain't like one of us that we ain't connected into one of them and didn't know. He could make a phone call and he still got it wrong. So I got to just put him out there like that. I hated to do it. It hurt me. but he's on my back page, brother. We can't be pushing the movement back. You're supposed to be pushing the movement forward, brother. So you are right on my page. Today I was like, I was gonna make him the center of the cipher, but I didn't want to clown him too much. We'll get back to him later on. All right, y'all. It's been good. I think we got good warm up. The cipher we're gonna get into, it's the end game. You know, the draft is coming up here on the 29th, and everybody's doing everything. As Youngin said, the underwear Olympics. You know, we got everybody going to the pro days. We got all kinds of stuff going on. But at a certain point, you gotta take all that information you got, and you got to start to put together a draft and build a team. And I think over the years in RSG, we've all had different philosophies when it comes to drafts. People that we really paid attention to more and more, just because of the things we just talking about that influence negatively people's lenses in terms of being able to evaluate talent, particularly at the quarterback position we just talked about. We have Philly cases, but all over. And there are ways there, but there are some people who get it right. You know, they don't, you know, you think about somebody like Ozzie Newsome. Ozzie gets it. Ozzie got it right a lot of time. I mean, Ozzie was on it. So we can talk about some of those GMs that, you know, they found a way, or they found a diamond in the rough, or they had an approach to it. And then we got some folks who might be seen as crackheads. They just don't get it right ever. And I know Hammer wants to refer to his GM in Chicago, but we won't talk about that specifically, but he'll probably bring it up later on. But so we want to spend some time here just talking about, you know, you get to the end game, and we're going to let the guys really talk about their approach to being a GM. If they were sitting in the seat, how they would go at it. And we're going to start with, you know, probably just talking about GMs that you admire, people that help to influence the way you even think about the game historically, those GMs that you might have stepped out that kind of just, you thought they always had a good approach to the draft. They knew how to build a team that influences maybe the way that you might see the game. Let me start with Hank. You know, I know you've been watching football a long time and hanging out. You know, is there someone or is there somebody whose approach, organization's approach that you've admired in terms of how they've approached the draft and how they approach building their teams?
Well, you know what? When I look at GMs from the past, you can't take nothing away from Gil Brandt in Dallas. Okay, the old Dallas Cowboys. He helped build that brand. Okay, before you had the old man, Jerry Jones take over. And he wasn't bad when he got started, but then he lost his mind with power. Or Bobby Bethard. Okay, now some of these guys, you go back to, if I'm not mistaken, I think Bethard started with the Washington football team now. Yeah. But they won championships with Theismann and with Williams and with Rippon. Okay, they knew they stayed with a basic philosophy of the Hogs and playing solid defense, and they stuck with that brand. Or you can look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, back in the day, that's old school. They knew what worked, and if it wasn't broke, they didn't fix it. I mean, they didn't fix it if it wasn't broke, and they kept on adding to that brand until they stopped running out, until they stopped competing for championships. What I love about the old school versus what we do right now, and this was, I'm going way back to the time when Inside the Park first got started, and we started talking about analytics and sabermetrics and all of these numbers. And what drives me crazy, what drives me nuts, is the good old-fashioned eyeball test. Can you play? Can you play the game? Okay, I know a lot of guys that can lift 400 pounds. I see them all the time at the CCRB. They're big, they're stocky, they look good, okay? But they can't tackle, okay? They can't catch a pass. They can lift weights, but can you play the game? And what's that, Herman? What's that? You know, we came to win the game, play the game. You see, and my approach is just watching a good GM is knowing, first of all, what is your team's philosophy? What is your philosophy? What is it you want to do? And can your guys, can they play? Okay, and listen to people around you. You know, because there's things you got to do. There's things that when you make that final call, you can't always be the smartest guy in the room. Okay, here in Detroit, we've had several GMs who was always the smartest guy in the room. That's why they haven't won a playoff game since before I was born. That's a debacle.
Hammer, I'm gonna give it in. Who are some GMs that you admire or teams in terms of how they approach this process that really stick out to you over the time you've been watching football?
I'm surprised to say this, but I definitely think the Packers because the Packers were able to attract players to a city with not that much to do there, and also with draft and cultivate talent, and especially the later rounds pick talent in various positions. So, and then the fact that Ron Wolf traded a first-round pick for Mississippi boy Brett Favre, who was a second-round pick for Atlanta, because the rumor was that he was his number one guy on his board the year Favre got drafted. It shows his great talent. So, and Ron Wolf changed the game. I mean, the Packers were just an embarrassment when I was growing up, and then when Ron Wolf came in there, they started bringing people, brought the right pieces, and and clips the Bears and embarrass the Bears now. So definitely, I'd have to say Ron Wolf is definitely people I admire, especially the Favre trade showed me his acumen for the game, that he was able to project Brett Favre with even all his craziness. He was going to be a great quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback. And when Glanville was called Mississippi, deriding him obviously. So I think Brett, and then you already mentioned Ozzie Newsome, some talent he got as far as it goes. Ray Lewis of the world, Jamal Lewis. I mean, he hit a home run because he understood the game. He's a great player himself. And he understood again how players project on the next level, not just the underwear Olympics as we talked about, or the bench pressing, but looking at the tape as well as looking at the measurables and being able to synthesize those into picking the player and projecting the player for the next level. So.
Yeah, and I mean, and one of the things you even mentioned about Green Bay, which is also added element, is not just the draft, but what kind of community opportunities are you creating? And when Reggie White came in, and how they try to work with folks in Milwaukee and others to create some space up in Green Bay to bring some of that cultural dynamics, to support and be part of it. I mean, Green Bay worked hard because they knew that they were bringing folks into a community, and Green Bay always had Black athletes going back to the 60s, but understood when they were transitioning into that time and building with Reggie, and work with them to bring some of those elements of support and cultural dominance, which is hard to do, but that had to be part of the layer that they had to bring in to Green Bay as well. So, thank you for pointing that out, Hammer. Darnell, who do you admire? Who's influenced you much?
Ozzie Newsome and John Lynch for the same reason. They both have their type of players that they look after. They look at specific things. They pick guys that fit their system. And me, I'm more of a college football guy myself. I watch way more college football than I do in the NFL because I want to be a college coach. And the way I want to build my teams, I have a certain type for almost every position. Like I have a certain way that I see players play for each position, and I admire that when I see the Niners draft and I see the Ravens draft because they build their team for their system. You also see that with Pete Carroll, and another team, the Browns, is as of late the Browns. It seems like when a player falls, and I'm like, why are they falling? And then the Browns always get them. Like it seems like the Browns always pick as to the way that I would pick players. Like as of the last 3 years. Like I'm not talking about throughout all of history. I'm just talking about the last 2-3 years.
You know what? Let me just say this, because when he said the Browns, the first thing that came to my mind was Greedy Williams.
Yeah.
And the reason why Greedy Williams came to my mind was because Greedy Williams was there when the Lions needed to pick. And they took that kid out of Hawaii they might as well have taken Carl Hampton out of San Francisco. I mean,
I can play.
You know, I mean, you were just as known on draft day as that player. And every time I think about Greedy Williams and Cleveland taking that player, I'm like, oh my God. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just had to lame it there for a minute.
Yeah, and I have the same thing. You know, Jim Finks used to have a philosophy, strong up the middle, right? He used to have this foundation, and part of it is I like about GMs, the teams that are successful, and maybe not always win it, but they're usually pretty successful, is they have an identity. Like the teams that struggle, the reason why you struggle because you don't know what they're trying to do. But they have a clear philosophy. So on one end, you have a John Lynch in doing something. And then the other end, you have a Matt Miller. Both, and Matt is as bright as you could, like before Matt became GM as a college analyst and everything, Matt's a bright guy in the booth, but he got into the GM booth and I don't know what it was. Somebody dipped some stuff in his coffee or something like that. And before I knew, he had 4 straight receivers. He lost his mind. But part of it was, when I saw the team he was drafted, I'm like, that's not a team that would play in Detroit. Now, the Pistons, when they're good, their teams are good. It's a team that you say, okay, that's like a team that plays in Detroit. Like there's a philosophy, right? When the Bears are good, you said, okay, that you know what a Chicago Bear team look like when it's playing. Like it just, you just when they start playing, you like, okay, this team is gonna be good because that look like a team that'll play in Chicago. You know what a Ravens team, like there's something about them, and the GMs understand how to get there, and these GMs who don't, where there's not a clear philosophy about what they're doing, it just looks like they're throwing a dart up there is what. But there have been GMs who got it. I thought Ozzie Newsome, even though I'm a Steeler fan, I thought the Steelers always found ways and developed talent. I like the folks who just don't need the home runs to do it, but they find somebody, you like, wow, where did they find that person? And they know how to develop them and keep them. I think San Francisco, when they were winning, not only were they winning Super Bowls, but the way they set their system up, they brought in people like Harry Edwards and folks. They thought about it holistically. They had cats, not only were they doing stuff on the field, they were doing stuff off the field. That's why everybody wanted to go to, not only was San Francisco winning, but all the things they did around you. The number of cats who left there with PhDs and MD, why they were there, law degrees. It was just, they created this organization when they used to go to Hawaii, families going, like they created a culture that made you think a little bit differently. And then folks started hating on them. I think, when you talked about Dallas in those early days, the way in which they changed the way evaluation happened. I mean, how we got to the combine because of some of the techniques Dallas was using. I think we probably are swinging the pendulum a little too far. But I also like those GMs who balance between quantitative and qualitative. We're gonna start talking. We're gonna use mixed methods in sports. We got to start using mixed method approaches to what we do. That means we're gonna use the quantitative stuff, but we got to have some qualitative stuff as well. And those folks, when you just are the cat that only is been influenced by the measurements, that's why you miss people like Russell Wilson. Because you're not really looking at those intangibles, those things that you just know football players have, and let the other stuff just take you away from those natural instincts. You miss it because you don't pay attention to it. Like, that's a football player's football player. Like, if you put 10 football players in a room, they watch that kid play on film, they're like, oh, that's a football player.
That's Antoine Winfield Jr.
You know what I'm saying? Huh? What?
That's Antoine Winfield Jr. right there.
Yeah. Yeah, you ain't gonna look up. You ain't got to tell them about no measurements. All they look at the film, and all 10 of those guys in there are gonna say, "Oh, that's a football player." They don't know height. They don't know nothing else. They're like, "That's a kid who's gonna make plays on anybody's field."
Here's the thing too that drives me nuts. Okay, and it's like what you said. Sometimes we get so, especially when it gets to the draft, we get so caught up with, well, he didn't play against anybody. Now there's going to be some big fish in little ponds out there. But the thing is, when you look at that, there has to be a level of domination going on there that don't nobody else see. Mm-hmm. Okay, if they're just basically outstanding somebody and they're in a small conference, that to me is a warning flag. Yep. But now if they're real, but you talk about the intangibles. One the one intangible that drives me crazy that don't nobody see is what I call game intelligence. Okay, what happens between the ears when they're on the field? Okay, is there instinctive gameplay that can translate? And those are the sort of things that I think a lot of GMs, because either they're not. This is what I believe John Lynch is doing so well, and Ozzie Newsome, because they know what goes on in between the lines. Okay, so they can look at a player and see, okay, they've got certain game intelligence, okay, game smarts, and what they don't have, we can develop at the next level. Versus a bean counter GM that's only looking at the analytics, only looking at the numbers. Okay, and I think that's where like the Lions messed up. They looking for a certain size and a certain thing that fit instead of a straight out baller. And you go and get these players, and then they don't pan out. They're like, but they played in Florida, but they weren't the best one there. You're picking a size, and you can't do them like PlayStation, and then go into player development and give everybody a 10. They got to have something when they come in. And this is what you see a lot of times these GMs doing, and those players fail. It's just something, but they're just not, they're not gamers. They might have name, for an example, and there's another place you can go. They might have a lot of name, but maybe they've been coddled too much at the university they've been in and lost some of their dog. Yeah. And see that you got to look at that too. That's why you see a player like a Trent Richardson or somebody like that. They get out there and they don't get it done. You try to figure out what happened.
Yeah, that's what I love. I mean, draft day is becoming one of my over time it's grown on me as a really favorite movie I can watch over and over again, because you get something new every time you watch it. But even the question when they asked your boy Bo, whether or not his teammates went to his birthday party, and it's interesting because I don't know if we've been having this conversation or whatever we've been watching even on the NCAA. I was talking to somebody about that. A couple. I actually just talked to a couple of folks about this, about watching teams win and whether or not they hug their coach. Right? You watch like how they celebrate with them. Like you can tell the level of relationship in the program, even how they celebrate. Is a coach celebrating alone? Are they celebrating each other? Like there's some nuances, but like those kind of things about leadership, like are cats really riding for you? Because I got to know, if you're the quarterback, I got to know cats ride for you. And that's one of the things that we know about Brady is that cats ride for him. There's little things he does in that locker room, outside, in the social spaces that builds relationships that really roll for people, that they appreciate, know that he's going that extra effort. And are you drilling down for that? I think people like John Lynch look for that. I think they look for not how you do when you do well, but they want to see you have a couple bad plays and how you're going to respond. They want to see if you got trucked. And then did you wilt when you went up there, or did you stand up and play strong in there? And those things mean something, I think, to people like Ozzie Newsome and Lynch in ways that they might not mean anything to the analytic guy who played touch football, maybe played up through whatever. He wasn't quite a starter, didn't really understand what it meant to have to lead a team. They don't quite get those little things that get missed. So they push the analytics because they don't want to have to be judged on their ability to do that. The numbers are easier to work with than those kind of we would say what kind of social emotional kinds of things that might be important to get somebody done. This is good. So when y'all looking at this draft, I'm gonna take this another one. Nah, I know. I already know. I'm gonna ask this question. I already know the answer. Hammer, I ain't gonna get it out. He already gonna say it. Who do you have the most confidence in? Who do you have the least confidence in? From a GM standpoint?
Current GMs right now, right? Current GMs right now, right?
Your current GMs right now.
Current GMs right now. Right?
Yeah.
I'd say definitely Snyder with the Seahawks. I'm starting to lose confidence in Lynch. If they pick Mac Jones, I'm going to really lose confidence in him as a GM. So, and that's what it seems like they're going to do. So that's a debacle. Mac, a guy who can't throw throwing errant passes at pro day. No. And then obviously, who I think's the worst, Ryan Pace with Kevin White and Mr. Trubisky, Adam Shaheen, and giving away Leonard Floyd, and Leonard Floyd just got a big deal. I mean, it's just he's one of the worst. Trading away Anthony Miller. I mean, just broadcast, we're going to trade him away. I mean, why? Cutting, Kyle Fuller, our best quarterback. These guys, but that's the problem with the type of guy that Ryan Pace is. He's arrogant. I mean, you go say he's dumb, yeah, but the worst thing about he's arrogant. Like he truly believes that Andy Dalton is going to be a top flight quarterback, and so is Matt Nagy because they're arrogant. They truly believe they are the best thing going, and so. But it's a sad situation because they're not stupid, but they're just arrogant. That's the bottom line. So, and some hits and some picks he's gotten right. I mean, Roquan and other people, but you talk about some of the picks. I can name them all, but Kevin White is supposed to be the next thing, the great receiver. Dude's sitting at home. Hopefully, he's watching the show. I mean, nice to see, but he's not playing football right now. So that's the bottom line is that. And Snyder, you look at the fact that Russell Wilson's he's picked, Chris Carson, 7th round. I mean, it's unbelievable. Some of these guys that they get. Richard Sherman, 5th round. I mean, unbelievable how he understands talent and is able to get. I think Chancellor like 3rd round. I mean, he picked some guys who were studs. DK Metcalf, 2nd round. So guys that slipped supposedly and weren't the fit and Snyder's a great GM. So those are I would say, but I would say Ryan Pace the worst, no doubt about it. So we cheer all Bears fans. We want to go 0-17. We want to build a record, not the Lions. We want to go 0-17, not 0-16, so we can get them out of town.
All right, I love it. All right, youngin, who do you? Which organizations or GM do you have confidence in? Who do you don't have confidence in?
At first, I thought you was gonna go with players, so I had the players ready. But the GMs, I would say I got the utmost confidence in the Indianapolis Colts to pick the right guy. And this might not go over well. The GM that I have the least confidence in to get this pick right, at least day one, Bill Belichick.
Bill hasn't been a good GM. That's not a bad one.
He's not a good GM. No, he's right about that.
I mean, and this is high stakes. Before he's had Brady and others to hide them bad mistakes. This one's gonna be out front. So you got one.
Because Owen called him out. Basically said that's why we had to sign our money because we couldn't draft anybody. So look at N'Keal Harry. I mean, he's had some bad drafts.
I mean, facts are facts.
Yeah,
it is. It's facts. So just point it out, youngin. All right, Hank. I think you did. Who do you have confidence in?
Well, you know what? There's a couple of them. I wrote them down that I got a lot of confidence in because of just what we've seen in the past. Andrew Berry out of Cleveland, done a very nice job bringing talent to that team. And Chris Greer, another brother that's running the Miami Dolphins. And then we haven't talked a lot about them, but they stockpiled a few draft picks a couple of years, and then they made a little push. They got Tua, thanks to Troy, and now they're ready to make that next push. Those are two that I got a lot of confidence just based upon what we've seen. You can argue that Cleveland is probably they've made a push to get to that next level. And if I was a Cleveland Browns fan, I'd be very, very, very excited, about what's going on over there. I'm going to come with a name as my least confident is Jerry Jones. And I think that you got to look at the Dallas Cowboys and what in the heck is going on. Because when you talk about a GM, you got to talk about the totality. All right. Not just who you're putting on the field, but who's coaching your team. Okay. And did Hammer lose his mind about McCarthy last year? Okay, and all season. Okay, but he's back. Okay.
I don't know, man. He wasn't at Dak Prescott's press conference. I don't know about that, man. He might get fired. Well, I think Kellen Moore might be the coach.
But you know what? But that remains to be seen. But the thing is about Dallas right now is America's team, quote unquote, haven't done squat, in decades now. in years. And now you're at Dak Prescott, and that's still up in the air. Do you go after a quarterback? I mean, that leg injury is pretty severe. I know they didn't sign to all that money.
They tried. They're gonna trade for Kyle Pitts, man. That's what he's crazy about Kyle Pitts.
But
Kyle Pitts might fall the team.
But let me just say this. But you got to believe this. We can debate that all you want to, but Jerry Jones is on the can't trust it list.
He's on the GM can't trust it list.
On the can't trust it list.
I love the Greer pick down in Miami because I think they're slowly building something that I think is solid. They're developing an identity, and how far it might take them or whatever. But I like their approach to it. There seems to be a connection between the GM and the coach. They're on the same page. I like that. I think Cleveland was looking crazy for a while. I think they finally got some alignment in the same way. Makes me a little nervous for my Steelers being in that division because Baltimore just doesn't miss too many picks as well. I mean, again, even post, with the new group, they still are making solid picks as well. So I like that. And I like the Dallas as the one that you can't trust. The other one is just the Jets. Can you? They do. I mean, they've been good since this. They've been good since this. That's a long time. Like that's the only thing. Like Herm held him up for a little bit as long as he could. They made Herm so crazy. He got the most famous thing that you hit me. We played to win the game.
We played to win the game.
That's the most biggest highlight. The last, they don't ran out some good coaches out of there.
Ryan had a little run.
Huh?
Yeah, Rick Ryan had a good run.
I think they had it, but I mean, that's again, they had an identity. They couldn't hold on to it. Like they had to switch right away. They couldn't just ride it out. It's something in their trigger finger said, we got to make a change, right? Rather than just ride it out and living with it. I can't trust them. I can't trust what they're gonna do right now. The Jets, they get too much. They get more. They almost get as much pub as Dallas Cowboys, and neither one of them teams are winning. It's exactly. Just, everybody talk about them. They ain't doing nothing. Stop talking about them. So I don't trust them at all. And to the point where, fans should be asking for their money back. So we'll figure that out. But one thing I give a Jerry's the ultimate hustler. He be messing up, but he still be figuring out how to make that money. But I don't understand that. But he diversifying that stadium deal. But yeah, them Jets, I don't know what's going on over there at all. All right, we're gonna close this down a little bit right here. If you had to say there's one thing that would be a part of your GM philosophy, if you were put in, like one thing that would guide you as a GM, in terms of how you would approach building your team, what would it be? I know it's hard to get out of one thing, but what would it be? Let me start.
Character. No question.
What you gonna say? Character.
Question.
So, elaborate on that.
Michael Parkinson's would not be on my board this year. Period. Mm-hmm. I don't care how talented he is. If he doesn't get in trouble, he's gonna be a great player. But he would not be on my board. Period. Like Lawrence Phillips. I mean, you saw the red flags with Lawrence Phillips. Sadly, he's dead now. But just when you have those character issues, Aaron Hernandez, Manziel, we talk about those issues, and you come out, it's just, I mean, you don't want to paint somebody with a broad brush because someone like Keyshawn Johnson had bad, but he turned it around at USC. But you start having character issues, lawsuits, stuff like that early. That's a problem. Because
they say, but you know the old saying, a lot of great teams have a few felons. So
yeah, a few. Like I said, but
I'll mess around with you. You're the choir boys in there. That's why
I'm not saying choir boys either. But I'm saying you have to have somebody you can trust.
Yep,
I mean,
you got to be able to trust them. You got to be able to trust them. I think you're right. I'm just messing with you. Darnell, what would be the one point? What would be one important point that you would try to approach?
Identity. Like you said, identity. I think we both on the same point with that, making sure that we know who we want to be and how we want to play. So I'd say identity, and the way we're going to get there is 80% film and then 20% combine stuff. Like the combine to me, most of the numbers really don't mean much to me. It's just the outliers. Like, you can take yourself off my board with a horrible pro day or a horrible combine. Like you saw Paris Ford, the safety. He ran like a 5 in a 40. I was like, bro, I can't pick you, man. He run a 4.97 and 100 pounds.
Can he bulk up? Bulk up the linebacker? He can't run, man.
No, he can't. That ain't gonna work either.
He's done.
You ain't playing linebacker running no 5 either. If you
He
bulk
ain't
up,
playing NFL, so period. Shoot, a 5. He must have an injury, man. Come on. He played a 5?
he ran a 4.97.
All right. Those are good way to go, Young. And I expect you to. Hank, what's the one thing that kind of would drive your philosophy around pulling together a team draft?
Well, you said my word already. It would be philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mine would be straight up philosophy. What do I want to do? Okay. What do I want to do? I want strong lines, both offensive and defensive. Okay. I want to either run the football or I'm going to throw the football. Okay. I'm either going to punch you in the mouth or I'm going over the top. Okay. And I need to have me a strong philosophy. My philosophy needs to be somewhat fluid because the league changes sometimes. But I'm going to have all my teams. Like I said, I'm going to build my line. I'm going to build my foundation. I guess the other piece of that would be attitude as far as my philosophy. Okay. I want fellows who want to be here. I want fellows who got dog in them. I want fellows who self-motivated and team motivated. That would be my two: philosophy and attitude.
Yeah, my whole thing would be, I want folks who are dogs.
Yeah.
My whole thing, my philosophy is we're gonna be physical on both sides, and I want cats who have that attitude, who get after it, and I can tell that. Like, I think it gets back to what Darnell said. 80% film and then the combines. But what I need to see, I got to see you got that dog. And because, the dog allows us to get through adversity. If you got that dog, you the kind of person who's going to be fighting every day, day to get to that. And that's the stuff that builds the locker room. And so I want to have that. I want to have guys up front who have that because they set the tone. Whether we pass or run, you got to have people up front who can handle it, who got dog in them. Whether you got to take on that end or whatever, you're going to punch them, they're not going to punch you. Right. And so you got to have that ability to have that, and you're going to bring that, and we're going to get a sense of that. And then we'll add the other pieces in along the way. Hey, this has been a good show. I love having this kind of show with y'all because this really gets into kind of how y'all deep. I think it's important for the listeners because, when we start to reflect on the draft, it's the things that y'all talked about are what drives y'all, y'all opinions on certain players, how y'all going to react to how certain people did things. All that's going to be coming from somewhere. And so it's good for the listeners to kind of hear kind of how y'all approach this from a philosophical approach, so that when we start breaking this stuff down and grading, they're gonna understand why Hammer called it a debacle. All right, y'all. It's been a good show. We got to do to bring this home. We're gonna have to drop this mic.
All right, gentlemen, folks out there, enjoyed y'all tonight. This past Monday, we just witnessed the national championship game. Thank God. We didn't have a tournament last year. And this year we had a chance to watch what we thought was going to be a great matchup. But Baylor said, hold my beer, and put an end to that real quick. But it got me to thinking, what we talked about, Hammer, again, congratulations for winning the brackets. But I thought about something. I was watching, I was like, you know what? That wasn't the matchup that we thought we was going to be. And because of Illinois' debacle, everybody's bracket wasn't what they were supposed to be. But I want to propose something to you all tonight. I thought about this, and I thought this would be a lot of fun, guys. We could probably do this. The greatest championship matchups. And think about that a minute. For an example, Can you imagine if we had in brackets LeBron James and Anthony Davis's Lakers going against Kobe and Shaq's Lakers? And then their winner meets Showtime Lakers, the Magic Johnson Lakers. Who would win? Who would you pick? What about this one? The Boston Celtics Big Three, Kevin Garnett, Allen, and Pierce versus Larry Bird's Celtics. Now that might be a little bit easier. And we're talking about basically championships right now. Let's go over the baseball for a minute. We go to the baseball bracket. Think about this. The 90s Yankees with Derek Jeter and his group over there versus Reggie Jackson's Yankees. Oh, that would be nice, okay? Because, you know, Derek Jeter also had A-Rod on his team. You know, Reggie had Greg Nettles and all that group. And then you can go over to football. And this will be fun, too, because then you could have Tom Brady versus Tom Brady. Hold on, no, you can't do that. We're going to pick this Patriot team over that Patriot team? Oh, no, I didn't talk about that. You could also, you couldn't do it that way, could you? That wouldn't make sense. You'd have to do Tom Brady with the Tampa Bay Bucks versus Brad Johnson and the Tampa Bay Bucks. But you'll say, wait a minute. I thought that's not good. You had Tom Brady. But the Tampa Bay Bucks of Brad Johnson had Warren Sapp, okay? And they had that cover 2 defense and John Lynch, and they had that defense versus Tom Brady. Think about that. Think about that. Now, see, you can go all kind of, and for youngin, I didn't go too far back. Just the 90s, brother. Maybe a little bit into the late 70s and 80s, okay? You might have been thought about, just ain't here yet. But you can research some of those teams with Reggie Jackson, with Showtime, when basketball was basketball, when you went into the paint, got knocked in the 3rd row against LeBron and them. That'll be a fun bracket. Just want to throw something out there for you guys to think about. Might be a show one day. Peace out.